Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of the Q&A. I haven't done much Guild Wars 2 stuff lately. This is the first video I want to throw back out there. We've missed a few feature pack videos, mostly because I've been playing the feature pack now, and I've got an awful lot I want to talk to you guys about with it. I'm really excited for this patch coming up the next week, so things should be going back to normal for the Guild Wars 2 front. Obviously, we've had our LPs rolling. Matt and I sat down for an evening earlier this week to record a bunch of Among the Sleep while I prepare for Final Fantasy X-2 that will still be coming. And yeah, feature pack's going to be really big for Guild Wars 2. It's really, really awesome to see. I held off on creating the videos for it this week because A, most of the blog posts were way too small. Like, you think about the features galore thing, there really wasn't that much to say. But B, the community, man, it's just been sort of bumming me out where I'm in this position, in that I've played the pack and I've got to log in and I've seen all these crazy UI changes and seen all the mini stuff and everything all together. It's been really, really exciting for me and really cool, and I want to be buzzed and I want to be pumped about it. But and I don't blame the community. The community's been kind of a little bit more negative recently, mostly because ArenaNet, the way they have revealed this feature pack, they spread out the information very thinly and made people feel like, you know, it wasn't that good. I think people will be convinced that it really is an awesome update, especially when they finally do get in-game. The collections and stuff are awesome, and hopefully people won't lose perspective of the fact this is coming, what, 4 months after another huge feature pack, another huge substantive update to the game. Like, this is really a quick update that we're having, and if the feature packs continue to have this frequency, it does mean big changes for Guild Wars 2. I would say these two feature packs already have brought more change, like substantive change, to the core game than we had entirely through the first year of its development. And don't confuse what I'm saying there with, like, content. You know, fractals, for example, and the inclusion of Ascended stuff to the game has certainly added a lot more content, but the actual core changes to the game, we've had way more this year already, just through these two feature packs. So I'm really buzzed about it. The community's been bumming me out a little bit, and I guess I'm just sort of waiting for that to pass a little. It definitely will come patch day. And then we'll be back into the roll of things. Anyway, enough of that. Let's do some stuff on the Q&A and talk about some Guild Wars 2. First question comes from The Real Halo, who says, I'm not sure if this has been asked before, but how do you feel about World vs. World being part of getting 100% map completion? I hadn't really had an issue with it until recently, but my last 2 map completions, I've been waiting on a single garrison's vistas for a few weeks. I personally think that that's a huge nuisance for the people mapping as well for the people in World vs. World. Yeah, I really didn't have much to say on this topic until recently when I've been going for Kraken, and it's a really interesting discussion for me now because I can kind of see the pros of it, but the cons are really weighing me down right now. And as a selfish player at the moment in the mindset that just wants to get his legendary and be done, I feel like I have to hate the fact that this is in the game. But there is good stuff that can come out of it too. So for anyone unaware, if you want to craft your own legendary, you need the Gift of Mastery. The Gift of Mastery requires a Gift of Exploration, and this requires 100% map completion in PvE. This makes a lot of sense. You want a legendary, you prove that you can go and explore everywhere and you've done everything. The thing is, the devs also included one of the regions of the Mists, World vs. World. World vs. World map completion on its own is not very rewarding at all, but the entire idea of it is built that you have to flip objectives, right? If you want World vs. World map completion, you have to have been inside physically on that character every single objective. You need to go into the camps, which is fine because there's no walls there, but then you need to go into the towers too, and you know, that's pretty fine too because even if they're maxed out, you can probably bust your way in. But then you need to get into the bigger locations like the keeps, or, you know, this ultimate location, basically the home garrison of the different servers. And as a player of this game, despite the fact that I've crafted 4 legendaries before, I never really had any experience with doing this. Why? Because my very first map completion came around the time of launch. For anyone who wasn't playing around launch, World vs. World was just flat out broken. Matchups usually just ended up with a single server dominating everyone else. So it's like, oh, what's the matchup this week? Do you have everything or do you have nothing? And even for a while around launch, you could just transfer for free at the same time too. So that's exactly what I did. That got me 2 legendaries. About a year later, this is much more recently, when I was going for my 3rd and 4th legendary, I needed to do it again, but I just let my credit card do the work, basically. I was playing on my warrior, And when it came to the point that I needed some objectives held by other servers, I server transferred. I bought gems, and I spent those gems on transferring server, and I got that stuff straight away. And I regretted slightly that I had spent the gems in this way, but it avoided me what I perceived to be a big hassle. The extent of this hassle I didn't understand fully, but you know, I was happy, and there you go, that was Legendaries 3 and 4. Now, I want the last one for my Ellie, Kraken, and I need to do it again. And this time I've tried doing it legit. This time I also happen to be in Tier 1 World vs. World, and it has been hell. I regret crafting my own legendary this time. I feel like I should have just bought it straight up from the trading post because it's been ridiculous. It's been weeks now since I've been trying. For the first couple of weeks, I would say I was putting in massive amounts of effort. Now, I'm not a player that is in a World vs. World guild. I don't have many people on my friends list that really World vs. World that much, and you know, people have even said to me, hey, you're wooden potatoes, just get a Zerg, you know. Even that I feel kind of weird about, right? I feel like I don't want to nuisance a bunch of people who are, you know, playing legit World vs. World stuff just because I want to flip this one location, right? And because I'm this kind of player, I feel really, really powerless in World vs. World, and it was incredibly demotivating. So I got to this point where I had a bunch of towers, basically, I needed in EBG, and I had a couple of garrisons I needed in some of the Borderlands, and I was stuck. And I had to make a decision at this point, as someone who doesn't World vs. World, do I really try and go for these things? Because if I do, it's going to be massively frustrating. But it was more frustrating to me to find that as a player of Guild Wars 2 who has thousands of hours in this game, feels like they know an awful lot about the game, to just feel completely powerless. Like, there was nothing I as an individual could really do. Now, this issue is probably exacerbated by the fact I'm playing in Tier 1 World vs. World now, but it was a horrible feeling. So I chose, no, you know what, I'm going to fight this. I want to actually make this happen for myself. I don't want to sit about and wait watching some interactive map that shows me when locations flip. I don't want to wait for some actual World vs. World guild to go flip it and then I just sneak in and I didn't really put any effort in. I want to feel powerful. I want to be able to do this myself. And so I took that on my shoulders and I tried to be a World vs. Worlder, not someone who goes around in Zerg and stuff, but who could maybe flip locations. And this is interesting. I feel like this is what ArenaNet are trying to incentivize here by including World vs. World in map completion. They want that turnover, right? If they don't have PvEers like me going in there and trying it out and then finding that they love it, the community will shrink and shrink and shrink, and it will end up dying. So for that purpose, I feel like it's a really good idea. But I do question how effective it is, especially for people in Tier 1. Because my experience was this, okay? Right, I'm gonna go for it. And I had some success. I got a couple of friends. We had a handful of people, 5, 6 people, maybe tops. I took the time to learn about different siege, what it does, different locations for stealth taking locations, and we ran around as this small scouting party. And when we had success, it was incredibly fun. Flipping a Tier 3 objective right under the nose of your enemies in Tier 1 World vs. World was so cool. It was really, really awesome. And felt like a lot of fun, like the kind of thing that would encourage me to play a lot of World vs. World and stick about in that game type. But those situations were so rare that ultimately I was forced to give up. I did manage to flip all the towers I needed, but the task of getting one of the enemy garrisons just proved impossible in the end. And all I'd done was spend tons of money on guild catters, loads of hours that I felt were almost selfish because other people were helping me out when they probably could be doing other stuff. Ultimately, we failed every time. We always got scouted, we always got blown up by people, we always got flattened by other Zergs, and now I've tried my hardest, I've spent a ton of time, I've spent a ton of money, I've got nothing out of it. And do you know what I did at that point with this last garrison? I've done everything for my legendary, this last garrison, and eventually I was defeated by it. And I haven't World vs. World for ages, and I'm burnt the hell out of World vs. World, and I don't want to be in there. And frankly, from the perspective of the real World vs. Worlders, they never really cared for me while I was there. So then it makes you question, alright, the idea is sound of including it all in map completion, but small groups are so powerless to do stuff. Is there any point of it being there at all? Like, I really feel like the amount of people that end up trying World vs. World and staying it because of map completion must be very, very small. And, you know, I'm just a bit sad about it now. In fact, it's been so long now that I'm not sad about it anyway. I'm just sort of looking at my bank and I'm like, oh yeah, I've basically got Kraken except for one garrison. I wonder if it's flipped. No? Oh well, never mind. And now I'm just waiting for myself to get carried through it, for some Zerg to do it and I get lucky. Or we change colours and I'm luckily now on the correct colour of the garrison. And I don't feel like I've earned that legendary when I finally get out. I feel like, you know, I just lucked into it. Oh, my colour arbitrarily changed. Yay! And now I get to grab this Vista for free. It just feels like some kind of stupid time gate. So, yeah, I see the system is really rocky, and having gone through all this frustration, having seen the fun that can be had when it goes your way, I don't know, I think maybe something has to change. If I could have a choice, though, I think World vs. World itself as a game type I would rather change to incentivize small man groups to make your PvEers feel more powerful when they go in there, instead of, you know, having to rely on massive zergs all the time. If actually the balance of World vs. World itself was tweaked a little, my experience may have been very different. I may have gone in, experienced a lot more of flipping these towers, found it viable even so much as to, you know, regularly get a group of people going in there and doing it even after I have map completion. As it stands, that never happened, and I guess I'm a bit of a sad potato. Alright, we spent a while there. You can tell I haven't talked about Guild Wars 2 for a while. Melon13 says, hey WP, what do you think is the best way to get a precursor right now? Should I just buy it on the TP? Should I try getting it from the Mystic Forge? Or should I wait for the potential precursor hunt crafting? I don't think you should wait for precursor hunt or crafting. They didn't announce it this feature pack. That gives you at least 6 months or so where you can safely say, look, it's not going to be in the game, so just go for it now, otherwise you're forever waiting. I swear, I once upon a time was waiting. Do you know when I was waiting when they first announced it, like around when Fractals first came out? It would have been, that was well over a year ago now. And I'd still be waiting. You may as well just get it and enjoy it for what it's worth. And if you do get bitten in the ass and suddenly precursor crafting comes out, then don't feel too bad. Also consider that when precursor crafting comes out, it is not necessarily a cheap way to get a precursor. It's not going to be like, oh, it would cost you 1,000 gold today, but only 50 gold the second that update comes out. It's probably going to be really heavily time gated, and the whole point of it is so that it's a non-RNG way of getting it, and non-trading post, I suppose. Speaking of RNG, do you want to go for the Mystic Forge? It depends if you like to gamble. I only seriously tried once to gamble after a friend of mine convinced me, made it sound like a sure thing, and it totally wasn't a sure thing, and it just left me a bitter husk of a man, and I'm never going to do it again. But, you know, you might get lucky, and good luck to you if you do try it. I would always buy from the TP, and that's what I have always done. Force9 says, hey WP, I'm a new sub, I just came back to Guild Wars 2, was wondering with all the patches, do you think Engineers, Rangers and Necro are better at PvE now? Because I keep hearing conflicting info. So one thing, especially if you're kind of new in the Guild Wars community, these three classes will come up a lot, that people will say, oh, they are bad classes. You need to remember one thing though, okay? When people say they're bad, they're talking about a niche of PvE, alright? Most MMO players would expect the dungeon scene to be the, you know, the primary game type or whatever, the principal thing that you can judge the game on, the main thing everybody does. It's not true for Guild Wars 2 though, so while it may be true that Necromancers, Rangers, Engineers pretty debatable, but you know, Rangers and Necros, they're not great in dungeons. But that doesn't mean they're terrible classes, it's only in dungeons that they're bad, especially Ranger with that stupid Frost Spirit change that is just incredibly depressing to me. But you know, just because they're bad in dungeons, remember that that doesn't mean they're bad overall. You can take any class you like and do just fine with the rest of the content. And to put this in perspective, ArenaNet is barely working on or touching dungeons at all. They haven't been a priority for them for a long time since the dungeon team was dissolved, like a couple of months after launch, as far as I remember. So, you know, dungeons are a small piece of the puzzle, not as big as people will make out. It's just sort of, I think, other MMO mentality leaking in. You can play a Necro, you can play a Ranger, and do whatever the hell you like, in general. Girl Painting asked, hey WP, if you had the opportunity to redesign the South Sun and the events there, what would you do with it? I think for a starter, that South Sun has this really negative reputation as a place nobody ever goes, when it's actually now no worse than any other map. I go to South Sun more than I go to many other maps. The Karka Queen being there means a lot more people go there than you'd expect. There are some like unique reward incentives there as well, like so with this mini change, mini prices have skyrocketed. The mini Karka is now worth 1,700 gold. I bought my mini Karka for like 40 gold, I guess, when it was originally added to the game. And now in theory I'm rich, but the truth is that thing still drops. That thing apparently is still available in Guild Wars 2. It's a rare drop from mobs on South Sun Cove. That's something you don't really see in other maps. So there is kind of incentive there, people just don't see it. All that said though, I do think that obviously it could do with some changes. I think a lot of maps could. The one thing I would really hone in on is this idea of holding the settlements. I've always loved the idea of the dynamic event system not scaling so much based on players in the area, but scaling based on like time held. So for like territory style dynamic events where you're holding a location and enemies are attacking it, I believe it should scale higher and higher the longer you hold the location, and the rewards should scale too. So pick any of them anywhere in the game. If you take that location the first time you get it, you get kind of a small reward. The enemies attacked, you know, a wave of ghosts come in to attack you, you push them away, that's fine, and it's easy. But then the next wave is much bigger, and unless you've got like a solid team of 5 people, that's going to get lost, it will flip, and then, you know, the events will start rotating again, which is in ArenaNet's best interest. It means lots of people see the different content, instead of it being held constantly, like, say, the Lissa event chain, right? Which a lot of people have been frustrated about because of their Grandmaster traits. But this also opens up the other cool idea that now you've got your 5 good players and they've defended it twice in a row, and this maybe hasn't happened for a long while, so you get a bit of a reward. Maybe this time you get a silver reward instead of a bronze reward. You do it again and it's much harder, and now you need lots of guildies, lots of pugs are coming together. And I'm not saying that they should be incentivizing more Zerg style play, but, you know, just the general idea of, hey, how long can you hold this location, and it really scales exponentially to become very difficult. That would be cool to me, and if South Sun did that with the 4 different settlements, you know, which currently you only want to take and hold simultaneously to spawn the Kaka Queen, if that was more of just a permanent rolling thing, it could be very interesting indeed. You just have to be careful, though, obviously, with stuff like that, because it's very easy to become farmy. Zergs are so powerful in Guild Wars 2, that could easily be, oh, hey, stand at territory A, and then spam 1 on your Staff Guardian for infinite loot for the entire day, and that would suck. So you need to be careful with it, but that general system, I think Guild Wars 2 could benefit from massively if the devs really sat down and thought of how it could work and how it could not be exploited. Basically, if they made it hard, which open world PvE doesn't really exist right now. The last question is just a really minor one, but again, sort of news that I was tempted to talk about but didn't in the end. Leon Vanek says, hey WP, what do you think about the DDoSs we've been having? Could it be fixed? I doubt it can be fixed. I'd really like to think that when you have employees who get woken up like at 1 AM because servers have gone down and now they need to go into work, that really the best protective measures have already been employed. DDoSs are weird though, because I find myself wanting to talk about them. It's like, oh hey, I've been kicked out of Guild Wars 2. Maybe I should do a news video and talk about the fact we're getting DDoS'd. But there's also the fact that the more you talk about it, the more you sort of give the guys who are doing it what they want. You know, there's a very good reason why when you look at communities online as DDoSs are going on, admins and moderators are very quick to stifle discussion about it. The more that you post your rage, the more that people feel like what they're doing is being validated. So I really do agree with the general stance that if DDoSs are going on, I'd rather not talk about it. I'd rather not make people feel like they're getting any gratification from it. If anything, when a DDoS happens, it sort of, to me, feels like the universe is saying, yeah, you should stop playing Guild Wars 2 now. Look, this is your opportunity. Go do real life stuff. Stop playing the game, and then actually go get things accomplished before coming back. But, you know, DDoSs will happen. It was not exclusive to Guild Wars 2. You just got to sit through it, go do something else, come back, and eventually the people get bored. Anyway, there you go, guys. That's the Q&A / a bit of news for today. Thank you very much for watching. And yeah, keep an eye out next week. We'll have a lot more Guild Wars 2 stuff rolling, especially with the feature pack, which is going to be great. Got so much to talk to you guys about it. But thanks, guys. Hope you have a wonderful evening, and I'll see you next time.